What if the way you begin your morning is quietly deciding the quality of your entire day? Most people wake up and immediately rush back into their thoughts, into tasks, into noise, without realizing that the first few moments after waking are when the mind is the most open and impressionable. Before the world has touched you, your inner world is deciding how you will meet life. This isn't about productivity, efficiency, or doing more. It's about what forms inside you before the day begins demanding things from you. In Buddhism, the morning is not just the start of a schedule, it is the beginning of your mental climate. It sets the tone for whether you spend the day reacting to life or actually living it. In this video, you'll learn 10 simple Buddhist morning habits that can make daily life feel lighter, calmer, and more meaningful. Not by changing your whole routine overnight, but by shifting the first few moments of awareness. Take what resonates. Leave the rest. And remember, you can always begin again tomorrow. Habit 1. Protect the first minute of consciousness. There is a small window in the morning that most people never notice. It lasts only a minute or two, but it quietly shapes the entire emotional tone of the day. It's the moment right after you wake up, before the world returns, before your mind remembers who you have to be. In that space, the mind is unguarded, soft, impressionable, and open, and whatever touches it first begins to decide how it will feel, react, and suffer for the rest of the day. Most people give that moment away without thinking. The alarm rings, and within seconds, the phone becomes the first teacher of the day. Notifications, messages, news, opinions, schedules, all asking the mind to sprint before the body has even arrived. Before you've taken a single conscious breath, you're already comparing, planning, anticipating, or worrying. You haven't even stood up, and yet the inner world is already crowded. Buddhist teachings suggest something radically simple. Let the first minute belong to you, not to the world. When you wake up, don't reach outward, don't scroll, don't plan, don't problem solve. Just pause. Let the mind arrive in the body. Feel the warmth of the sheets. Notice the breath moving on its own. Notice that the world hasn't made any demands yet. In that first minute, there is nothing to fix, nothing to achieve, nothing to control. This is not laziness, it is sovereignty. When you protect the first minute of consciousness, you teach the mind that it does not need constant stimulation to feel safe. You begin the day grounded instead of reactive, centered instead of scattered. And over time, you'll notice something subtle. Life becomes less about catching up and more about simply being here for it. Habit 2. Begin with conscious breathing. Before thought fully returns in the morning, the body is already speaking. Sometimes it whispers, sometimes it clenches, sometimes it rushes ahead without invitation. What most people don't realize is that the nervous system wakes before the mind does. If the body wakes tense, the mind follows. If the body wakes calm, the mind has a better chance of staying open throughout the day. Conscious breathing is the bridge between the two. Breathing happens automatically, whether you pay attention or not, but there is a difference between a body that breathes to survive and a body that breathes to arrive. In Buddhism, the breath is not just air, it is an anchor. When you bring awareness to breathing, you pull the mind out of its thoughts and back into the body. You return to what is real instead of what is imagined. Try this before you stand up, before you check anything, before you become someone again. Take 3 to 5 slow, relaxed breaths. Don't force them. Don't count them. Don't try to achieve anything with them. Just observe the inhale entering the body and the exhale leaving it. Feel the jaw soften. Feel the shoulders drop. Feel the chest expand without resistance. With each out-breath, tension that you didn't know you were holding begins to melt. This simple habit tells the nervous system something powerful. I am not in danger. I don't need to rush. I don't need to defend myself against the day. That message matters more than you think. When the body feels safe, the mind becomes clearer. Reactions become slower. Patience becomes more accessible. The morning stops being a battlefield you have to conquer and becomes a space you can enter gently. And a day that begins with breath tends to unfold with far less struggle. Habit 3. Set a morning intention. Most people wake up and immediately think about everything they need to do. Tasks, responsibilities, obligations, expectations, all waiting at the door of consciousness the moment the eyes open. The problem isn't that life requires things from you. The problem is that when you start the day with a list of demands, the body tightens and the mind narrows. You enter the day already behind, already pressured, already burdened by outcome. Buddhism offers a gentler doorway. Begin with intention, not achievement. An intention is not a task. It is not something to accomplish or control. It is simply a way of being. It answers a different question. How do I want to move through this day? Not what will happen, but how you will meet whatever happens. That difference changes everything. Choose one quality to carry into the day: patience, kindness, honesty, steadiness, presence, gentleness, or clarity. One word is enough. You don't need a manifesto. You don't need a list. When discomfort appears, you return to the quality. When conflict appears, you return. When you forget, you return again. This is the practice. Intention reduces internal chaos because it gives the mind a direction without forcing the world to obey it. You may not control what the day brings, but you do control the manner in which you show up. And when how you live aligns with your values, the heart softens. Effort feels lighter. Stress becomes less personal. The day becomes less about winning or losing and more about living with coherence. Setting a morning intention turns ordinary life into practice. It doesn't make the world easier, but it makes you steadier inside it, and often that is enough. Habit 4. Practice morning appreciation. There is a quiet difference between positivity and appreciation. Positivity tries to convince you that everything is fine. Appreciation simply notices what is here. It doesn't demand you to be cheerful. It doesn't ask you to ignore difficulty. It just invites you to see what has not disappeared. And in the morning, that simple act can change the emotional direction of your entire day. Most minds wake up searching for problems: what's missing, what's unfinished, what's wrong, what could go wrong. Without realizing it, the first thoughts of the day are often rooted in lack. Lack creates comparison. Comparison creates dissatisfaction. And dissatisfaction makes ordinary life feel like it is always falling short. Appreciation interrupts that cycle before it begins. In Buddhism, gratitude is not a performance. It is a form of clear seeing. It means acknowledging the basic realities that make life possible: breath, warmth, shelter, the body that carries you, another day to try again, people who remained, lessons you survived, chances that still exist. You do not need to list grand things. You only need to notice what is quietly supporting you. Try this in the morning, before tasks return. Acknowledge 3 things that are still here. It could be as simple as, I'm breathing. I woke up. I have another day. Notice how the mind softens when it stops trying to earn life and simply recognizes life. When appreciation becomes a habit, comparison loses its grip. The mind becomes less obsessed with what is missing and more aware of what is present. And contentment grows, not because life becomes perfect, but because you stop postponing gratitude for some future version of yourself. Appreciation doesn't change the world, it changes the lens through which you meet it. Habit 5. Gently wake the body. Most people think their thoughts set the tone for the day, but long before the mind explains anything, the body already knows how it feels. Tight shoulders, clenched jaw, shallow breath, heaviness in the limbs. The body carries emotions before the mind has words for them. And if the body wakes tense, the mind almost always follows. In the modern world, the body is often ignored until it becomes a problem. We only notice it when it hurts, when it's tired, when it asks for attention louder than we'd prefer. But in the morning, the body is quietly asking for something simple, a gentle invitation back into movement. Without it, you spend the first hours of the day disconnected, living in your head, rushing from task to task, unaware of the tension accumulating underneath. Buddhist teachings look at the body not as an inconvenience, but as the first home of the mind. The body anchors presence. The body reveals emotions. The body tells the truth long before thought does. When you wake up, move slowly, stretch, walk to the window, roll your shoulders, rotate your wrists, bend, breathe, not to burn calories, not to accomplish anything, just to arrive. Even a few minutes of gentle movement releases tension before it crystallizes into stress. It signals to the nervous system you are safe, you can soften, you do not need to defend yourself against the day. When the body feels protected, the mind stops scanning for threats. Thoughts become less reactive, conversations become lighter, and the day unfolds with more ease. Waking the body is not about doing more, it's about remembering that you have a body at all. And in that remembering, the whole day becomes less of a battle and more of a place you can live. Habit 6. Consume less, notice more. Modern mornings are loud not because the world is loud, but because we invite noise before we have the capacity to digest it. Before you've even taken a sip of water, you may have already consumed more information than previous generations consumed in an entire morning. Messages, notifications, headlines, opinions, arguments, predictions, tragedies, entertainment, comparison, and noise disguised as updates. The mind was never designed to begin the day like this. The problem isn't that information exists. The problem is that information is not neutral. Everything you consume pulls attention outward. Some things pull gently, others pull violently. Some leave you informed, others leave you agitated, anxious, restless, or numb. And without realizing it, the day begins not with your own experience, but with the world's demands, dramas, and expectations. Before you've even arrived in yourself, you've already started reacting. Buddhist teachings describe a simple truth: the senses are gateways. Whatever enters them shapes perception. Too much input makes the mind scattered and fatigued, even before life has properly started. This is why many people wake up tired even after sleeping, not because their body didn't rest, but because their mind never got a chance to arrive quietly. To consume less in the morning is not an act of deprivation, but an act of protection. You are not trying to escape the world, you are trying to meet it with clarity. Delay news for later. Delay social media. Delay the endless scroll of other people's lives. Instead, begin with direct experience, the sound of water, the warmth of a cup, the rhythm of breath, the light entering a room, the taste of food, the sensations of movement. Noticing is a form of nourishment. When you notice instead of consume, attention becomes sharper. The ordinary becomes vivid. A glass of water tastes like water instead of being swallowed unconsciously between notifications. Breakfast becomes a moment of embodiment instead of a background task. The mind begins to feel spacious instead of crammed. Over time, this simple shift rewires perception. Restlessness decreases, comparison softens, and fatigue loses its grip. You begin the day in your life, not in someone else's feed, and attention The most valuable currency of your consciousness returns to where it belongs. Here, habit 7. Begin with self-kindness. There is a quiet habit almost nobody notices in themselves. The first voice they hear in the morning isn't the voice of the world, it's their own. And for many people, that voice is harsh long before the day has even started. Before you drink water, before you speak to anyone, before life asks a single thing from you, you may already be judging yourself. You didn't sleep enough. You're behind. You should have done more yesterday. You should be doing better by now. Without realizing it, self-criticism becomes the first flavor of the day. Buddhist teachings point to a simple truth. Inner conflict emerges when we turn against ourselves. Emotional resilience doesn't break under external pressure. It breaks under internal hostility. When the first thing you do each morning is critique, demand, or shame yourself, the nervous system tightens, motivation shrinks, and the day becomes heavier than it needs to be. Most people assume self-criticism makes them stronger, more disciplined, more productive, but harshness rarely creates growth. It creates fear, and fear may produce action for a short time, but it slowly erodes joy, creativity, and connection. Compassion, on the other hand, creates space. It allows you to try again without collapsing. It allows mistakes to become teachers instead of prisons. It allows progress without self-punishment. Try something simple when you wake up. Place a hand on your chest or abdomen. Feel your own warmth, and silently offer yourself a gentle phrase such as, "May I meet this day gently," or "I am doing the best I can," or "May I move with kindness today." This is not indulgence. It is alignment. It reminds the nervous system that you are not an enemy to yourself. At first, this practice may feel awkward or unfamiliar. That discomfort is not a sign that it's wrong. It's a sign that self-kindness has been absent for a long time. The body doesn't reject compassion because it's unnatural. It rejects it because it's rare. Beginning the day with self-kindness softens resistance. You stop pushing yourself forward through force and start moving through willingness. When there is less inner hostility, motivation becomes healthier. You stop acting to prove something or to avoid shame, and start acting because growth becomes possible again. Over time, this habit changes the emotional climate of your mornings. The day no longer starts with a fight. You become less reactive, more patient, more forgiving with yourself and others, and life feels less like something you must conquer and more like something you are allowed to participate in. Habit 8. Remember impermanence. Most mornings, we wake up assuming we have time. We assume the people around us will always be there, that our bodies will always move the same way, that tomorrow will arrive, that opportunities will wait for us, that life will pause while we catch up. We move through the morning on autopilot, postponing presence for some imagined later. But Buddhism teaches a truth that gently interrupts that illusion. Nothing about today is guaranteed, and that is what makes it meaningful. Impermanence is often misunderstood as gloomy or negative, but it is actually the doorway to appreciation. When you remember that this moment will not return, the ordinary becomes precious. The mundane becomes sacred. The morning light, the sound of water, the warmth of a blanket, the presence of someone you love. These details stop being background noise and become part of what makes life feel alive. The mind resists impermanence because it wants security. It wants permanence, predictability, agreements with life that nothing important will change. But change is not a threat. Clinging to permanence is the true source of suffering. When we expect things to stay as they are, we rush, we resent, we postpone, we delay kindness for later, forgiveness for later, living for later, until later quietly becomes never. Impermanence softens that urgency. It reminds you that today is not a rehearsal, It is not preparation for some better version of life. It is life itself. Even difficulties change shape. Even joy fades. Even pain passes through. When you remember this in the morning, you stop demanding that life obey your plans and you begin participating in it more honestly. Try a simple practice. When you wake up, pause for a moment and say internally, "This day will not return," not as a threat, but as recognition. Feel how that statement shifts your posture toward the day. Suddenly, the small irritations lose intensity. The things you normally rush through slow down. You become less interested in winning arguments and more interested in understanding. Less interested in being right and more interested in being present. Less interested in postponing love and more interested in offering it now. Impermanence also heals resentment. It becomes harder to carry anger when you remember how quickly the people in your life could be gone. It becomes harder to dismiss moments when you remember that nothing repeats. Even the version of you waking up today will not exist tomorrow. You are constantly becoming someone new, shaped by every breath, every encounter, every choice. This habit is powerful, not because it adds anything to your life, but because it removes the illusion that life is endless. When that illusion falls away, gratitude rises without being forced. Ordinary mornings become worthy of attention. Moments you once rushed through begin to feel like something you don't want to miss. Impermanence doesn't take life away from you, it gives life back. It returns urgency in the most gentle form, not the urgency to achieve, but the urgency to live. Habit 9. Sit in silence before noise arrives. There is a moment each morning before the world speaks, before messages come in, before news begins, before obligations return, before other people's voices mix with your own. In that small window, something important is waiting. The quiet sound of your inner life. It is subtle, easy to overlook, and easily drowned out. But once the noise of the world takes over, that inner voice becomes much harder to hear. Silence is often misunderstood. People imagine it as emptiness, as inactivity, as something reserved for monks or retreats or extreme solitude. But in Buddhism, silence is not a withdrawal from life. It is how we enter life more fully. Silence is not an escape. Silence is a foundation. Without it, the mind becomes entirely shaped by whatever information, emotion, and stimulation reaches it first. Most people wake up already surrounded by noise, digital noise, mental noise, emotional noise, social noise. Not always loud, but constant. Even before leaving bed, the mind may already be reacting, scrolling, comparing, checking, planning, worrying, remembering. The day becomes something you chase rather than something you inhabit. Sitting in silence for even 2 or 3 minutes disrupts that momentum. It gives the mind a chance to arrive before it begins to respond. It gives awareness a chance to settle before decisions are made. And perhaps most importantly, it gives you a chance to hear yourself before the world starts telling you who to be. Silence also reveals what noise was hiding. When we avoid silence, we often avoid meeting our own thoughts. Restlessness grows not because silence is uncomfortable, but because it shows us what we usually distract ourselves from. This is why someone can live an entire day reacting without ever actually knowing how they feel. Try something simple each morning. Sit or remain lying down, without speaking, without reaching for anything, without planning, without scrolling, without trying to accomplish anything. Just be there. Notice the sounds around you without labeling them. Notice the breath without controlling it. Let thoughts pass without chasing them. Let sensations arise without judgment. Silence is not about stopping thought, it's about not being pulled by thought. When you give silence space, clarity becomes available. You begin to sense what you need instead of what you're expected to do. You notice where the body is tense, where the mood is leaning, what the mind is afraid of, what the heart is whispering. These insights do not arrive through force, they arrive through quiet. Something else happens too. Reactions slow down. When the mind is not flooded immediately upon waking, the nervous system remains softer. Instead of snapping, you pause. Instead of defending, you listen. Instead of rushing, you consider. Silence gives you time, not on the clock, but inside yourself. This habit does not require discipline or ritual. It only requires permission. Permission to not begin the day already consumed by the world. Permission to not offer your attention before offering yourself attention. Permission to hear your own life before you hear everyone else's. Over time, silence becomes less of a practice and more of a refuge, a place you can return to without leaving the life you're in, a place where clarity grows, perspective widens, and the heart becomes steady enough to meet the noise of the world without becoming noise itself. Habit 10. Recommit to kindness as a way of living. Buddhism teaches something subtle but powerful. Kindness is not weakness. It is wisdom in motion. Many people mistake kindness for softness or agreeableness, as if it were a trait for people who cannot stand up for themselves. But true kindness reduces suffering at the root. It makes the world easier to move through, relationships less fragile, and the inner world less conflicted. Every morning, the mind prepares to enter a landscape filled with friction. There will be delays, misunderstandings, disappointments, strangers with sharp edges, people who are stressed, and moments that do not go your way. Without kindness, each small irritation creates tension. Without kindness, you end up fighting everything: people, expectations, reality itself. Kindness acts like lubrication in a machine. It reduces friction and prevents unnecessary grinding. But there is an important clarification. Kindness begins inside the self. Many attempt to be kind externally while being hostile internally. They minimize their needs, punish themselves for mistakes, criticize their bodies, or shame themselves for not being further in life. This creates an inner war that never fully ends. Buddhism points out that compassion without inward application is incomplete. The person you wake up with every morning is yourself, and the tone you set toward that person influences every interaction that follows. Before roles return in the morning, before you are required to perform, produce, respond, or prove, there is a brief space where you can choose direction. In that space, silently set an intention. Today, may my actions do less harm. This does not demand perfection. It does not require constant gentleness. It simply reduces unnecessary suffering. A small reduction in harm can transform an entire day. This intention softens reactions. When someone is rude, you pause before escalating. When frustration rises, you breathe before spilling it outward. When impatience appears, you observe before acting on it. Kindness creates a gap between stimulus and response, and in that gap, wisdom appears. You begin to realize that most people are not malicious. They are tired, confused, overwhelmed, or hurting in their own ways. Curiosity begins to replace judgment. Understanding begins to replace anger. Kindness also dissolves invisible inner conflict. When your actions violate your values, the mind punishes itself quietly through guilt, anxiety, or agitation. When your actions align with your values, the mind becomes peaceful. There is no need to narrate, justify, or explain yourself to yourself. Life becomes simpler. Recommitting to kindness each morning also changes how others experience you. You become easier to be around, not because you hide your feelings or avoid conflict, but because you no longer add hostility to situations that are already difficult. You begin to respond instead of attack. You begin to listen instead of defend. You begin to soften without collapsing. Kindness does not remove challenge from life. It removes unnecessary cruelty. It opens the possibility for connection where conflict once lived. And over time, this habit quietly transforms a life from something to endure into something that can be lived with more ease, clarity, and dignity. Happiness is not created by perfect days or flawless routines. It grows quietly through gentle mornings, where the mind is allowed to arrive slowly and the body is allowed to soften before the world begins asking for more. When you stop beginning the day in a rush, life slowly changes its shape. Reactions become responses, tension becomes presence. Ordinary mornings become spaces where peace can return. You do not need to repair your entire life at once. You do not need to fix every habit in 1 week. You do not need to control every outcome. It is enough to begin again tomorrow. That is the path. Small, steady shifts that accumulate in the background until one day you realize you are no longer living inside the same inner weather you once woke up to. If you want to commit to calmer mornings, type, "I begin with awareness." May your mornings be slow. May your mind be clear. May your heart be kind.